Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Dr. Stefanie Johnson. Stefanie is an associate professor of management at the University of Colorado's Leeds School of Business. She studies the intersection of leadership and diversity, and she's published 40 journal articles and book chapters. In 2016, she was invited to the White House to present her work on diversity in corporate America. Welcome, Stefanie.
Thank you, Peter.
So, I'm guessing you haven't listened to my podcast, so you don't know this question.
I don't know any of the questions.
This is the only one I always ask,
Okay.
which is, if you weren't working as a professor, what would you be doing?
Ooh, obviously, I would be a comedian because I think I'm very funny. No, I think I would be a graphic designer.
Okay.
I'm not very good at graphic design, but it seems like something that's pretty fun to do, and I like messing around with the computer. I like making things look good, so graphic designer.
Do you do anything like design worthy? Like you were saying that you were just hanging something yesterday. You dropped a water bottle on your face?
I did. I did. That was not designing. I was just hanging up my kid's bike on the bike rack in the garage, and I didn't notice there was a water bottle still in the water bottle holder, and it fell off and hit me in the face. But do you scrapbook
or do you make invitations?
Yes, I have scrapbooked. I make invitations. I have made.
Do you plan parties and like?
I do. Yeah, I host baby showers and I have made about 100 pillows. That was my first. I don't know. I like making pillows. It's really easy. You just sew a square.
So why do you say you don't have design skills? Like clearly.
Well, I don't have computer skills.
Okay.
But if I could design on a piece of paper, I think that would be good. But it's an outdated skill, I think.
But I think that, my understanding of at least fashion designers is that they still draw.
Yeah, I think so. And I love fashion designing. Maybe I'll be a fashion designer.
Okay.
That's good.
You get to choose.
If I weren't a professor, I would be the world's best fashion designer for the most expensive label.
Have you watched any of these like fashion documentaries to know what your life would be like?
No, I haven't. I didn't even know that existed.
So I went down the rabbit hole a few years ago. I'm getting a call.
Oh, let's see who it is.
Okay, let's do it. Hello? Yes, unfortunately, I'm actually recording a podcast at this moment. I know, but now it's part of the now it's actually part of the podcast. Do you mind sending me an email and then we can chat? Okay. Thanks so much. Bye. All right.
Is that a sign that the podcast isn't going well, that you took a phone call for like outside humor?
No, that phone never rings.
I know, that's how I feel too when it rings. I'm like, oh my God, someone's died.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's always like, we have this new textbook. Would you like to adopt it in your class? It's for sale.
I know. I don't even normally answer it, even if it rings. So
wow.
There we go. So yeah, I went down this rabbit hole. Like I watched this documentary called The September Issue. Okay. Which is about the September issue of Vogue magazine, which is their, it's a big fall fashion, and it's incredibly compelling and interesting. And then Netflix tends to do, if you give it a high rating, it just starts throwing more of these at you. And so there's a whole bunch of these about documentaries about famous designers and so on. I find it really, really, it's like an interesting life, and these are interesting characters. And this was around the same time the Yves Saint Laurent exhibit was at the Denver Art Museum. So cool. I went to that exhibit and had an even greater appreciation for this designer and so on. So
to me it's art really when you look. You're a snappy dresser.
That's nice of you to say.
I think it's fun. Like I feel like I'm putting on costumes when I get dressed up in different designers' clothes, and I don't know, it's beautiful.
It's interesting you say this because I have a note I just wrote down about, and it just says fashion and goals.
Oh, my fashion goals.
No, but so it's funny how clothing has come up as a topic in this podcast, in part because I think late in life I got interested in clothing.
Yeah.
And you dress well too, of course. Not today, but but generally.
It's still a nice outfit.
It's
right?
true, yes. It's not.
It's my ninja outfit.
And you're not wearing Birkenstocks right now.
I don't own Birkenstocks.
Yeah, and you clearly don't belong in this town.
Oh, right. Tevas, come on. Isn't that the official shoe? Or Merrell's or something?
It's probably right. So you when you teach, you dress well.
Thank
when you
you.
give talks, you dress well. I know
Thank
that.
you.
When you teach, you dress. Now, why do you do that?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, right? So I could say it makes me feel more confident, but I think the truth is I really want an excuse to wear that stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I just can't do it. It's so much effort to do it if I'm just coming here to school doing a podcast. I had to walk my kids to school this morning. I might as well I want to go to yoga this afternoon. It's like, let's just cut out the middleman. I'm just going to wear the yoga outfit all day.
Go right into it.
Yes.
So you just like dressing well, and then the teaching gives you an excuse, and then you use the excuse that you're more confident.
Yeah, that's the fake excuse. But also the excuse isn't just internal, it's external, because when I show up at, say, my kid's school or anywhere, dressed up, anywhere in Colorado, people go, what the heck?
What
are you
on?
wearing?
What's the special occasion?
Why are you wearing shoes? Like, that's so weird of you. And so then I can say, I'm teaching, so don't judge me.
Oh,
I'm a business professor. But otherwise, people are like, why aren't you wearing yoga gear? Are you not running a marathon today? That's so lame. How do you bike in those heels, right? Because the culture here, I think, is very...
it's casual.
It's casual for sure.
Well, so that was like that's kind of the root of that. Why I jotted that idea down is that I think that a lot of the conflict's a strong word, but judgment, in your words, right? The fact that people judge you, it comes from a place that people have different goals and they don't understand each other's goals, and so fashion, clothing can serve different goals, and so to understand people's fashion choices or to motivate fashion choices, you have to understand what do people want to accomplish, right? So is it that they want to be comfortable,
right?
Well, then the athleisure wear seems to be a good solution to get you closer to that goal. But if a goal is to feel creative, to feel distinct, this notion of, so that now you might forego comfort.
Is this a theory you're working on for research?
I don't know. It's just I kick around ideas a lot, but I actually think that too often I think clothing is sort of an afterthought for people. They sometimes fail to realize how it reflects on them, or sometimes they care too much how it reflects on them.
Sure.
And so they don't end up making their clothing a path to them living a better life in the way that they might with the way they eat.
Yeah.
Or the car they drive, or the bike they choose.
Yeah, that's true. People put a lot of thought into their bikes.
Yeah, and no one ever goes, bikes are so frivolous.
Well, not in Boulder, maybe someplace.
But there has to be some frivolity with some of the bike choices in this
town.
Oh,
for sure, yeah.
Right? And so there's something that I mean, because it seems like more like a utilitarian object,
right? But then you could just rent the KP. Like rent a bikes and drop it off anywhere if it were just utilitarian, right? If you were just using a bike to get from A to B.
Yes. Versus what does my bike say about me?
Right, yeah. So I don't actually think that that's the reason people are judging on clothes. I think it's because people are always questioning themselves. And so if everyone is dressed up and you're not, you feel bad. So, or if someone is dressed up, you're like, why are they more dressed up than me?
I want to do a project on fashion.
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, it checks a lot of boxes for the type of research that I want to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty blue ocean. There's not much out there.
True.
It's a big business.
Yeah.
It's an emotional choice, set of choices, both on the person wearing the clothes and then the audience, so to speak, the people they come in contact with. And I think it would be fun. It'd be interesting. And it would push me. And so I've been looking for ideas. I even went to a fashion conference recently.
No way.
I did.
But was it like FID?
It was in LA. It was called Simply stylish.
Oh, wow.
And it was super fascinating.
Yeah.
Talk about me being a fish out of water.
I don't know. I think you could go to an LA
I dressed
fashion
really, I wore the best clothes that I have.
That's good.
To that thing. And it was kind of fun because it was the only place, it was the only professional setting that I felt comfortable saying to a woman, your outfit is great. Looks great.
Right, yeah. That's really interesting.
Right.
Because they're trying to look
and
great.
they were like, oh, thank you so much. And, like it would spark a conversation about what they do and all, because that, but elsewhere I would never think to go,
right.
Oh, that's a great outfit.
Especially not today, in today's era.
So this is a perfect segue into my first question.
Yeah.
So when you give public talks, when you give talks, you like to say that you like white men.
I love them.
You love white men.
That's right.
Yes. So explain why you, in these talks about diversity and inclusion, you say, I love white men.
Okay, so 2 reasons. One, I do love white men. As I say in the talk, my dad was a white man. My husband's a white man. My son is kind of like a tiny white man. So there's at least 3. But really it's because I talk about diversity and how there's negative effects of being a woman or being a minority. And I think that makes all the white men in the room feel uncomfortable. Like this is a talk about why they are bad.
Right.
And then I think they tune me out and they basically think the whole time I'm talking about why they suck, which is not true because I love them. So I think it's just addressing the elephant in the room that people are 100% always thinking that I am a feminist who hates men and I'm a feminist who doesn't hate men. Yes. And so I think just by bringing it up, people, they kind of let it go. It's like they realize how absurd it is to think that a woman who's interested in diversity hates men. Like it doesn't make any sense. Yes. Why would women hate men, And
you do this early in the talk.
I do.
And it gets some laughs.
It does. Thank you.
It does. It gets laughs.
I heard you laugh in LA at that point. You have the loudest laugh. I'm like, thank you, Peter McGraw. Thank you for laughing.
If you want to position me, this reminds me of a quick story from the Humor Code. Do you remember the show The Nanny with Fran Drescher?
Fran Drescher.
So unfortunately, at one point in time when they were filming that show, she had a stalker or she had some threats
I remember that.
Something.
Right,
Does this sound
Someone
familiar?
broke into her house, I think.
Yeah, so what they did was they replaced the studio audience with people from Central Casting.
Oh my gosh.
In Los Angeles. So they hired the audience.
Wow.
And my co-author Joel Warner and I went to Central Casting and we met the woman who casted the audience.
Oh my gosh.
And we auditioned. Like we did fake laughs for her. And neither of us would have qualified. We would have made the B team, she said. She was nice. In any case,
was your laugh too loud?
I don't know.
I
think
weird?
When it was fake, I had the laugh on command versus
the real
Pete
So
McGraw.
I always wonder if you're fake laughing. Because you laugh so often and so loudly. And you study humor, so I'm like, is he just really perfected the fake laugh?
No, it's not.
It's not. That's your real laugh.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's a real laugh.
What's your fake laugh?
I'm the one asking the question.
Oh, right.
I don't know if I could do it well. It's funny. I tried to do some improv on one of these things once, and it was just a total disaster. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this idea. So you say diversity and inclusion, which I think this is, besides the fact that you're funny, this is why you're on this pod right now.
Cool.
Because I think that I don't think a lot of people understand the language, the definition. They don't really I think a lot of people know that this stuff is important, they value it and so on, but they don't really understand the language and the constructs behind this. And so will you give me the lesson that I've heard from you before?
Oh, yeah.
About what is diversity? What is inclusion? Why you need both together? Why one of them is in itself not sufficient to
for sure,
to make improvements?
Oh, well, there's a quote I like from Vernee Myers, who's the VP of Diversity and Inclusion at Netflix. And she says, diversity is being allowed to go to the dance, and inclusion is being asked to dance.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's nice, right? So
Yeah.
diversity is numbers. It's like our business school has 8 women professors. That's diversity or lack of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Inclusion is how do those people, whether they're represented highly or not, if there's 8 or 800, how do they feel? Do they feel like part of the team? Do they feel like they have the same small talk in the hallways? Do they feel like they can be themselves, or are they trying to like fit in all the time? Sometimes it's called like masking. You're acting all the time to fit in. Or do they just feel like I can bring my whole self to work? I can wear what I want, say what I want, but kind of like do what I want, I guess. And that's inclusion.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I think I like this idea a lot, because I think that what businesses do, and I'm sure you have the data on this, is they're eager to deal with their diversity problem.
Yeah.
They don't have enough women. They don't have enough non-white people, people of different perspectives, right? So the idea essentially is, and again, I'm just stealing all from your talks.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
on, is, you know, well, you have to answer the question, well, why is diversity important? Well, one is that those broad perspectives are actually useful when it comes to business.
Right.
And so what happens is there's a lot of like ticking boxes.
Right.
Oh, we've upped the number of X's to Y this year. Our percentages are up. Look what a great job we're doing.
Yeah.
But if those people aren't being heard,
Or they don't feel like they can share their unique perspectives, they just fit in, then you might as well have hired a white guy.
yes,
Who
right.
I love.
Those white guys we love. Yeah, so then you can't, and obviously, so now if you have an inclusive culture, but you're not hiring diversely.
Yeah, and in fact, a lot of cultures, like some of the best cultures where everyone gets along and feels like they can be themselves, are really homogenous, and that's why everyone feels like
They
they
can
get
get along
along
and
and
be
they can be
themselves.
themselves. But if you want the creativity and it's improves bottom line outcomes, recognizing new target markets, things like that, then you need people who look different to actually say what they think.
And then have people listen
And have people
act
listen.
on those things.
Yeah, and otherwise you just have really high turnover among these diverse, non-white male candidates you brought in, and you just have to keep doing it. Like you just have to keep hiring more non-white men because they're going to quit.
Yeah, and the good ones can get jobs everywhere else because people are trying to fix that one problem.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
They're not. You don't think many people are trying to fix that problem?
I don't know. I think
you have data.
I have the
What is your
data.
data about one? There's one female candidate. What is that?
Yeah, if you interview only one woman and say 2 men or 3 men, you never hire the one random woman you added because she seems very different and weird, and maybe she seems like the diversity candidate, and so you don't really give her consideration.
Yeah.
So I think it's more, you have to really more holistically believe in diversity. But I think the irony is right now people think, as you just said, that companies really want diversity. But if you look at the numbers, they're not changing at all. In fact, I think now, at least at the highest ranks, we have fewer women CEOs than we did a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah, you just lost your example.
I
your
lost
Pepsi
Indra.
example.
I'm really bummed.
You have to change your talk.
I know. I think they're replacing her with a white guy.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's well, I guess you can make that
I know.
in your talk.
So I don't think we're getting more diversity at the bottom of organizations because the country's more diverse than it
I see.
was. But I don't think.
And we have very low unemployment.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean
Right.
that alone is reason to increase your diversity efforts. Like you just can't hire people. There's no one left. If you're in Colorado, there's no one left to hire.
Yeah, it's really it's people see it as good, but for business in some ways it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah, you have to pay a lot more per person.
It's good. I mean, look, it's good for the workforce. I would say
That's
that.
true. That's true.
It's good for well-being. So
I had this funny thought about that. So, Denver is one of the cities being considered for H2 for Amazon. I don't think they've announced it yet, right?
I know where it's going.
Where's it going?
It's going Maryland, D.C.
How do you know that?
I'm like,
You're buddies with Jeff. Buddies with Bezos?
no, you just put together
Okay.
That's my prediction. I'm going on record
Okay.
right now
What's
to
the
say
date?
it's going to be. It is August 31st. This, by the way, this pod won't come out for a long time because I have a whole bunch.
That's why you need to say
up.
the date, because by the time it comes out, you might.
That's right. August 31st, 2018. The DC metro area.
Okay.
Do you want to make a prediction?
No, I like that prediction. Yeah, I would have said Boston, I guess.
Okay.
But Boston's time. I don't know where they would put it in Boston, but it could come to Denver. But what I thought was interesting is when people thought it might come, if you watch the news and stuff, they say, well, it's going to bring all these extra people to Colorado. We don't want like 2,000 more people, right? Like, heaven forbid. But just yesterday, I saw this political ad saying, if we pass this bill, we're going to lose 2,000 jobs, and heaven forbid.
Like, right. What? Oh, what a nice status quo bias.
Yeah, isn't it? Because like, we don't want to lose jobs we have. And it was like the oil industry. Oh, no, we're going to lose a bunch of
we don't
oil
want to
people.
add jobs.
We don't want to add a bunch of engineers
yes, right.
to like.
Yeah, this is
Denver.
called the reversal test. So
yeah.
Nick Ostrom talks about this. He uses it in the idea about genetic enhancement and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
genetic enhancement.
Yeah, so people don't like the idea of genetic enhancement. And so he talks about the status quo bias, and he puts forth the reversal test to show that, this idea that, well, what if you did the reverse? These kinds of things. So this is a nice example of that, which is, well, then if you don't want to add 2,000 jobs, well, then losing 2,000 jobs, that should be good, right?
Yeah, or add 2,000 and lose 2,000. So it stays the same.
Yes, that's funny.
But it still feels bad. I don't know why.
So I want to talk more, it's so interesting is like these topics, they're sensitive topics.
Yeah.
But they also lend themselves to comedy.
Yes, because it's slightly inappropriate to laugh about it.
There's some things, yeah, exactly. There's this there's a little bit of tension there. You could say the wrong thing and so on. So there's several problems, right? So you're listing, you list your problems. So it seems to me that the diversity problem, while hard to fix, is easier to fix than the inclusion problem, right? So
for sure.
So the diversity problem you talk about, blinding.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about goal setting.
Yeah. Set goals for diversity.
Set goals for diversity. Measure them.
Yes.
Reward them.
Yes.
And then, but you also want to try to blind processes as much as possible because they become self-fulfilling.
Right.
When white men are making decisions, because these non-white men seem so mysterious and weird and so different, What else? But what else has to happen at that level?
I start with admit it, first of all, is just the first one, because
or the ABC
the
approach.
ABCs, yeah, we all have biases. I have biases, I admit it, which I got to tell you, in a few instances I have admitted my bias because people will ask, what's your bias? And everyone gets super offended as soon as I tell them. But I'm like, you asked, and I'm admitting it. Isn't that good?
I see.
But
I'm not going to ask you.
No, I know. I'm because everyone's going to be super mad if I say it. But so I have biases. If I can admit it, then other people need to admit it. Because if you can't admit it, if you're like, no, really, the best person always gets the job, we're not biased at all, then you're not going to be able to do any of the other things. Like, why would you blind it then?
Right,
yeah. So you start with admitting, blinding, count it, that's measuring, and then support it, which is probably more of the inclusion part.
Yes. Now, so, whenever I talk about CEOs, I believe this has to happen in the C-suite.
Yeah, for sure.
It has to be the CEO. To me, CEOs, they do two things. They decide on strategy, and they create culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
There might be a better way to say it, but I just think when I just go back to like, what do good CEOs do? That's what they do. And you can't have one without the other. Mm-hmm. You can have a fantastic culture to get things done. Yeah. If you have a crap strategy, you're finished. Right. You can have a great idea, but you don't have a good culture to get things done. You're finished. Yeah. And that. So how do you? So to support it, how to create inclusion? I'm a CEO. Right. What do you tell me? You get to meet with the president and be like, this is how it's done. How do you tell the president to do it?
Our president?
Well, a president.
Well, okay, so I go back to these two basic...
A CEO. Yeah, that's what I'm a CEO.
Two basic...
Politics are harder to fix.
I know. Two basic human needs.
Okay.
And they are uniqueness and belonging. So if you want to create inclusion, you have to create an environment where people can be unique. So you can encourage people to be unique. I'm trying to think of some examples, like Zappos. If you go into Zappos and walk around, people's offices are decorated, it like says Star Wars or a jungle, because they want people to bring a little bit of themselves, right? Versus sterile cubicles.
I've done that tour.
Oh yeah.
And what you're describing is not like, it's not like there's some posters on the wall.
Right.
Like these cubicles and stuff are like blinged out with like tons of stuff.
Yeah. You have to crawl under trees to get into the jungle.
Yeah.
And there's a live tiger, which is like extremely dangerous, but it's okay because
I didn't know. I missed the tiger part of this.
There's not a real life tiger.
Okay. I was going to say.
So I think that's that's culture. That's like, do you feel encouraged here to be your unique self? Do you feel like you're getting a strong message? Pete, we really want you to be your unique Pete self.
Sometimes.
So I think that's the.
I mean,
you blinged out your office.
I did, and now I don't want. Now it's like my office when I moved here 14 years ago. I don't want to move.
Right, exactly.
Because I don't want to have to pack everything up.
Yep, you can't go. I mean, yeah, there's too much stuff on the walls,
But no one ever told me I could do this.
Right.
Like no one was like, oh, Pete, you can make yourself at home. I know you spend 12 hours a day here sometimes. Yeah. You might as well make it feel good. I just did it.
That's why. But that's
the privilege.
You.
That's the privilege also of being a professor.
Right.
I think.
Well, and I guess so you do it because that's just you. But if you look around, I think you're the only person, really, right? So we haven't developed a culture. Like you could say that you started a domino effect, and now my office has cute red chairs, and
I noticed that
Phil has a treadmill,
right?
And then maybe over time we have Star Wars offices and stuff like that. Okay. But
there are some nerdy enough professors here
for sure. But that would be, I think that's part of what you're saying the CEO does. It's setting the culture. So you do that by encouraging people, like rewarding it or making it happen for them. Just, if you want, like we buy all of our office furniture from like the Colorado State prisons, right?
I don't know is that true?
I think so.
So basically near slave labor built this furniture.
Well, and there's really no variety. Yes. They're all exactly the same.
Yes.
So that's kind of.
Yeah, I bought these three things right here. I bought.
Oh yeah.
Brought in.
I mean, of course, obviously, you can't get this stuff from. No, it's not on the prison list. So I think that's the unique part. If you let people be themselves, and it doesn't just mean let women be womany or girly, and it's not about letting minorities be minorities. It's about letting everyone be themselves, and then that trickles down. Like if you can decorate your office, maybe I can play Spanish music in my office, and if that's rewarded, then everyone feels like they can be whatever it is about themselves that's unique. And as I say, I love white men. I think white men have unique characteristics too. You love fashion, and
yeah, it's true. It's hard to lump. It's sort of strange to lump white men into
like one group. Like, isn't that insane?
It's so crazy to think that like, and it happens, of course, because the same effects that allow someone to lump black people or Puerto Ricans or lesbians into a group is the same. They're the same psychological processes that lead to that.
So that's the uniqueness. And then the second is belonging.
Okay.
And it's so even though you're your unique self, that you're accepted and you belong as part of the team. Like you fit in, you're welcomed. There's, celebrations that could even celebrate your uniqueness, but let everyone feel like they're important to the organization's mission and that their unique contribution makes the place better.
Okay.
So uniqueness.
But okay, so but I mean, right, so the bigger the company, the harder it is to do that.
For sure.
Right? Especially if you have to rely on HR to do it.
Right. Yeah, but I think you're right. That's why it's the CEO's purview.
It's the way they talk. Mm-hmm. It's what they reward.
Yep. Who they hire. What does their top leadership team look like? If they all look the same and you're like, we really value uniqueness. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. I mean, I think actions speak louder than words. It's clear that you don't really value uniqueness if everyone you hire looks exactly the same.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I think so. The work that you do checks a lot of the boxes that I have for the work that I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's important, it's big, it's challenging. it's provocative, like it makes you have to use your mind, you know what I mean? Because it's a difficult thing. But, I run a lot of like micro type experiments.
Yeah.
When you're a management professor and you're dealing with these big things, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I get a lot of company data.
Okay.
So companies will give me data, and then I just analyze it to test my theories, because they're harder to test in the lab, right? Like,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do controlled experiments with companies.
Yeah, exactly. Company A, I would like to increase diversity. Company B,
I want you to
everyone
squash it.
Yeah, you're all fired. All women and minorities, you're out of here. Yeah, I can't really do that. So I think we should do a project together on the effects of dress on.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we're doing the study right now on sexual harassment, which is super funny, that looks at, like, do people put effort into their appearance? And we find that basically if you try to be attractive, people think you deserve to be sexually harassed.
Okay.
Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, it's terrible.
But it's like, what were you trying to achieve with that outfit? Right? And this is only to women.
It's about goals. This is related to the idea earlier. What was people misunderstanding what a person's goals are?
Right. Like, why are you wearing high heels and a short skirt?
Because you want it. Yeah. So the assumption is, well, because you want to be you want people to flirt with you.
Yeah, and then they flirt with you and you're super mad about it, right?
Yes. Versus I wear this because it's fashionable. It makes me feel good. And
yeah, no one believes that.
yeah, see, that's unfortunate.
But I think there is like one study on style of dress and women leaders, and it kind of found the same thing, that people had less respect for women leaders who wore sexy clothes.
Okay.
It's like, whoa, big.
Yeah. I know there's almost no work on this kind of stuff. You would think, though, that encouraging people to dress the way they want to dress would help with that idea of uniqueness.
For sure. Yeah.
I could see how that would be the case. It's so interesting. Okay, I want to have some other questions.
Yeah,
for you.
go for it.
So, what are you saying no to these days?
Everything.
So, tell me more.
Well, I try to say no to everything. Like
what have you? Can you give me some examples of things you're saying no
journal
to?
reviews? We review this article. Like, no, I can't do it. Giving talks. People ask me to give talks. I would say every single day I get a request to give a talk.
Okay.
And no one ever thinks that if I say I can't do it, like, why can't you do it? You know? So
let's do. I want to role play here for a second. So you're getting a lot. You're getting 300 talk invites a year.
Well, I'll say not on the weekends. I'll say 200.
So you're getting 200 talk invites. And what are they like? What are the category of talk invites?
Universities.
So you get university talk invites.
Yeah.
And you say no to those?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would go if it's a business school.
Okay.
Because then I guess I'm supposed to do that, right? We're like supposed to give talks.
Yeah, it's part of it. So
it's part of our job.
So for listeners, professors get evaluated on a variety of dimensions. One category of those dimensions are your kind of scholarly influence, right? So that's like the papers you publish, the citations of those papers, but there are also these other things like, are you getting invites at other elite schools to present your work?
You're right.
Right. So you say yes to those.
I'll go. Like, I'm going to Purdue.
Okay.
It's a business school, but if it's like the physics department, and like they're all like women's studies, and I love women just as much as I love white men, but I just like can't go every week. It's CU people all the time, and I love CU, go Buffs, but there's all these different departments on campus that also need.
This is a this is a huge problem.
Yeah,
and there's just not nearly enough.
And very few people are funny. And so I really want to be funny. I told you this before. Like,
you are funny.
Thanks. I want to be funny. It's like I try to be funny. But it's funny how often when I give these talks, people are like, I'm just so glad you had like a light tone. Because usually it's someone yelling at us that we're all bad people and we're not doing a good job. In which case you're just like, well, forget it. I don't really want to listen to you because you're just berating me. Mm-hmm. And so I get invited to give funny talks about diversity, I think.
Yeah, I understand that space. As someone who does, it's funny because someone who does stuff on humor, people expect it to be incredibly funny.
I bet, yeah.
And I'm like, this is getting in the way of the message.
That's right.
And also, I'm not as funny as people expect it to be, right? So
You're
I have the opposite.
Funny.
Still, it's hard. It's hard to live up to that.
Yeah.
So, again, for listeners, Stephanie is so funny. I asked her to be on my comedy game show as a contestant, and I had to talk her into it.
And I've lost.
But barely. You had a magical comeback.
Oh, thank you.
And you were the crowd favorite.
Thanks.
By far. You were the darling of the crowd. Okay, so you got these lots of talks. So and then you also got some corporate stuff, I assume.
Yep.
That's for pay.
Sometimes, yeah. I historically I donate all my pay to the university.
Okay.
And so I'm not I don't have a side job,
Okay.
If they give me money, I put it into a research account and do more research.
I see. Okay. You are truly committed.
I am so committed to my research.
Okay. So then I want to talk to you about how you say no.
Okay. Oh, well, so yeah, it's horrible. I just don't respond. I just delete emails because they're almost always emails because no one has my phone number.
Yes.
And
or no one calls anymore.
No one calls.
The fact that I got that call is so crazy.
Weird.
Yeah.
So since I'm a little conflict averse, I just delete them and I hope they'll go away.
But people will follow up.
I know they do. So I delete it again. And eventually then they'll take it up a notch. I've emailed you twice. You haven't replied. I'm going to assume you're trying to say no.
Okay. So I want to try out an idea that I've been fussing around with. So I think it's really important. So first of all, I think it's important to say no to things.
Right.
Especially, look, when you first started studying this, of course you're going to say yes to these things because it's an opportunity to try out ideas, it's practice, and so on. But at some point, you're too successful, right? You become a victim of your success.
If you consider being asked to talk to different groups of metric of success.
Well, no, but I mean, you're publishing in elite journals. You're getting called to the White House. You're having, the schools showcasing your work and so on. You're at the leading edge of this type of stuff.
Thanks.
And so, but the problem is that if you say yes to 200 talks a year, then you don't have enough time to do the work on the leading edge. So
I'll be irrelevant next year.
Yeah. So you're saying no a lot, which makes good sense. But it's so hard to say no because, again, when you're starting out, you want those calls, and so it feels weird to change your behavior. And then the other one is you feel bad.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're disappointing someone.
For sure.
In some way. So I can't bring myself to delete requests.
That's good.
I can only do it. I've started doing it. I get a lot of even weirder stuff.
Oh. Wait, do tell.
I get I get people saying I want to be in your studies, and if you want someone to volunteer in your lab or whatever. I think the only ones that I occasionally will delete is someone if it's just so tone deaf. I'm driving through Boulder. I'll be there on Tuesday. I'd like to meet for coffee.
Right. You just delete it. Yeah. There's no point.
Because in part I just don't know how to respond to that.
Right.
And so I'll tell you, here's the reason I'm being a little bit ambiguous here. The reason I think that this is so hard is that I used to always apologize when I said no to things, even though I wasn't contrite.
Right.
And I think that that's an interesting thing. I think that's a problem, actually.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it suggests that I am in some way blameworthy for something that I don't think I should feel. Look, when I am wrong about something, I want to be able to apologize and say I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But when I'm just I'm not able to do this,
right?
I don't say I'm
and
sorry.
You shouldn't be
anymore.
Sorry. You should be glad if you if you were able to.
I'm so happy I could say no to this.
You have way too much free time, right?
Yeah.
If you were able to do every request, then you should be sorry.
I'm sorry, I have nothing else to do.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I have nothing else to do. So yes, I will come.
Yeah, but my point with this is I think there's an art to saying no.
Well, dude, tell me.
Both people can feel okay about.
Yeah.
I think it goes something like this. Hi, Jane. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I'm really flattered. I agree that this is a really important topic. However, or unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to give a talk to your group. And then, and wish you the best and so on. So that's the first level, which is acknowledge that this is a nice thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Be very clear that it's not going to happen.
Right.
Acknowledge that it's disappointing. And then the third level depends, I think, on the situation, which is, can you give them a lead or help in some other way? So, for instance, you should just send them all to Dave Heckman.
Yeah, that's what I do. No, I'm kidding. I delete them.
No, Dave's a colleague who does work in the area. So for me, I actually created a website about the benign violation theory.
Okay.
So I say there might be some useful resource. Go
to my website.
Yeah. So if it's a question type thing, I might say, there's some useful resources here. Or I think, here are 3 people that you might want to reach out to who I think will do a competent job.
Right.
Or whatever.
I think that sounds way better than being deleted.
I'm amazed you deleted me.
It's horrible, right? I don't always delete them. Sometimes I just don't respond.
Of course, yeah, I understand. Yeah, but that's
It's the same.
It's worse.
Yeah, that's right.
It's still in your inbox. So.
I know, it haunts me. But what if you do that and someone comes back and says, why not? Or
no one does.
What about next year?
You'd be surprised that people rarely do.
Okay.
When you just say, I'm not able to.
I'm not able to do it.
Yeah, I'm unable to do it. The next level, which I can't bring myself to, I read someone who says that they just say, I do not.
Wow.
I think that's that really slams the door.
Yeah.
That to me feels a little harsh, where they say, I do not give talks except for,
I think
C-suite level.
I actually would prefer that, because otherwise it feels more like a rejection. If you're just like, I cannot do yours, it doesn't.
You say, I don't do non-business school talks.
Yeah, I don't do non-business school talks. So
I don't know. It's a tough thing. I you know what? We should move on, because I'm sure listeners are being like,
that's really important stuff.
You guys do not have real problems.
I know.
You don't have real problems. So you're funny. We talked about that.
Thanks.
But you seem to resist this label.
No, I want to be funny. I'm just shy.
Is this false modesty?
No, it's not modesty. I think I was voted the most funny kid in my class in high school.
But
so I believe I'm funny, but I also am super awkward. And so I feel uncomfortable doing things like podcasts. I've never podcasted.
This is your first.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. This is a low
low stakes podcast.
Low stakes.
And same thing with the funny or die or whatever. I was afraid I would die.
Funny or true.
Funny or true. It's, I don't know, what if, I don't know. I think
But isn't that good? Isn't it good to sort of stretch yourself?
Yeah, for sure it's good.
You teach leadership classes that say you should be stretching yourself.
That's right, yeah. And I will on occasion stretch myself. It's just that I feel like, and I told you this, I think, when I did the funny or true, it just takes 15 more seconds off my life. Every time I have to speak publicly, I'm like, I'm going to die a little sooner.
I see.
Because it makes me nervous.
Yeah. I get it. I understand.
It's the number one fear, greater than death, is
that
public
really
speaking.
A true?
I don't know. It says it. I've
that.
read that somewhere.
I don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
Have you ever seen someone in your classes presenting and they're shaking? Okay,
yeah.
so.
I get that. But if I pointed a gun at them, they would be more scared.
That's true. I think maybe it's the idea of death versus the idea of public speaking. Actual death does seem worse than public speaking, but.
Yeah, if you gave someone a choice.
Right, yeah.
You're going to choose public speaking.
Yes, that's right.
It's about judging. It's the difference between Likert scales and pairwise comparisons.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so I asked you what you said no to. What about the opposite? Something that you said yes to, sometime where you're I need to take a bigger stage. I need to do something bigger. Look for a bigger opportunity in life, personally, professionally. Do you have a story about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming here to see you was a big step because I had tenure at my last university, and if I came here, I'd have to give up tenure and do the whole tenure process again, which for people who don't know, it's like when you apply for a promotion and when you don't get it, you're fired.
Yes.
It's the worst promotion you'd ever apply for.
It's a risky. So most academics aren't terribly risk-seeking.
Right.
So it's unusual for someone to to do that. So yeah, so why do it? Why'd you do it?
Because I love CU. It's a great school,
Okay.
great students, great PhD program.
You could dress like a hobo.
Which is always my goal, to dress like a hobo. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people are great here. I'd have great colleagues like you.
Oh, stop it.
People writing compelling books.
Like Phil.
Like Phil. And you. I don't think Phil had written his book yet. So
Okay. Now, obviously, it turned out well. You got tenure.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And your partner, did that take some convincing?
No, so he's a professor here too.
Oh,
at
okay.
CU. And so that makes it easier,
That
I
pushed
guess.
it along. Did he have to do the same thing? Did he?
No, he was already here.
Oh, he was already. You were doing long distance. Or
Well,
did you meet him here?
No, we met when I was in college. I
Okay.
was at UC Denver, and he was
I
here at
see.
CU Boulder, and
Okay.
we lived in between in Broomfield.
Oh yeah.
And so both being at the same school also, it's just like makes life easier, I guess.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you, it's funny. I mean, it's going to sound horrible, but like doing like dating in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll meet someone from Denver, and occasionally she'll say, "Oh well, we can meet somewhere in between," and I go, "I don't want to do that. I'll just come to you." And she's like, "Why not?" I'm like, first of all, thank you so much for your willingness to do that.
Yeah.
And I say, because there's nowhere I want to go to in between.
Aww.
Is that terrible?
It's kind of terrible. And I thought you only dated people in Los Angeles.
No, that's not true.
And then you meet somewhere in between. Las Vegas.
Vegas. Yeah, so it's nicer for your guys' commute.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good. That's funny. Okay, so I'm being aware of time here because I have like so many things I want to ask you about. So you're incredibly successful.
Well, thank you.
You're happy. Well, that's one of the things that I think is like really striking about you is like you just seem to be enjoying your life.
Wow, thanks.
But that's, I think there's like this sort of, and being a professor is sort of solitary work a lot of the time.
For sure.
Spend a lot of time alone working on things and so on. But yet other people have to be critical for success in this business. So who were some of those people for you, and how do they cultivate that?
Like mentors?
I don't know who they could be.
Oh.
Sometimes, so for different people, they're different. Some people succeed despite their mentor or despite their supervisor, and some because of. So
yeah, I think I really lucked out on the mentors. Like when my first mentor, I'm still in contact with, were in college. When I was a college student, I started doing research as a freshman.
wow.
I know, because I went to this professor's class and I couldn't get in. Like the class was full. And so I said, will you let me in? He said no. So then the next semester, it was an industrial organizational psychology class. The next semester, I tried to get in again. I went to a really small college. The average class size is 14 students.
Where was this?
Claremont McKenna College.
Okay.
So it's easy for the class to fill up when you have 14, right?
Yes, sure.
And adding one, that's a big shift. It's not like when we have classes of 50 and adding one is like, who cares? So he said no again. He's like, why do you keep asking me to get in this class? And I'm like, well, listen, I want to be a professor. I want to go get a PhD in
You
industrial.
did this at 18.
17. When Google, it wasn't even Google, it was AOL was invented. I used AOL to search for like different professions.
See, this is why you're a success.
No. It was like the internet was just invented. I dialed up. It was like, and I used my 2 fingers to type, and eventually I got to this website that talked about industrial organizational psychology, and I'm like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I've never heard of this before, but
Okay.
And I'm not even an industrial organizational psychologist now, but so I told this professor that, and he was like, that is definitely the weirdest thing anyone's ever said, any freshman's ever said to me, because how would you possibly know that? Like, do you like doing research? And I said, well, I don't really know what that is. I didn't mention it on the website that I do research. And so he's like, well, start doing research, and then you can see if you like it. You don't want to keep telling people you're going to be a professor for the next 4 years if you don't even know what research is. And so I did, and I loved doing research, obviously, and I did it all through college, and then went to a PhD program right out of college.
Okay.
And so that was Ron Biggio was the advisor's name. And it's funny, I was recently like graduate alumnus of the year at Claremont. And so Ron introduced me to get my award or whatever. And he told the same story that I just told you.
Okay.
But it was totally different about me asking to get into this class and telling him I need to do research in your lab because I want to be a professor. I'm like, that's not really how it happened. And in fact, my whole speech was about this story of him asking me to do research. But then it seemed idiotic because he just gave the same story with a totally different punchline. But anyway, so him. And then I had another professor, Susan Murphy, who was amazing as an undergrad. And then when I went to grad school, the same thing. I worked with the most amazing faculty. Bob Du Bois and Mickey Hebel were two of my mentors.
Okay.
And they're all out for me and for their other students. They're just a great model of what mentors should be, I think.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I myself had great mentors. You know, do you ever have this experience where you do something or say something and you're like, oh my God, I am my graduate advisor right now?
No, I don't think I have. But
you don't. I've picked up things.
You feel it's funny.
So I'm sitting in my office right now, and so I have this pile of scrap paper. So our printers have these cover sheets.
Yeah.
And so I feel bad recycling it because it's plain on the other side. So I have this whole huge pile. So when I'm sitting with a student and we're talking about something, I'll pull out some of the sheets, I'll put them down, and I take a pen and I start drawing pictures, like figures and things like that.
Nice.
That is Barbara Mellers, my advisor.
Funny.
Exactly. Like the whole thing, grabbing the piece of my pile of paper is more neat than her pile of papers, but that's like the major difference.
Yeah. Maybe one thing I just told a PhD student recently to like, just slow down. Like this stuff takes time. Like if you think you're going to finish this fast, you're not going to do a good job. Like that's not how it works. This is painfully slow process. And when you think it's good enough, it's not. You have to go and do it 100 times over, and then maybe it'll be good enough. And I remember my advisor telling me that because I always want to do everything fast. I'm like, okay, I've got to be out of here in 4 years. Like I have stuff to do. I have to go live a life. And like,
the time, also the windows of time when you're a student and an assistant professor are very tight.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's a luxury that you have later in your career. I was actually just talking about in my previous podcast about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good advice. You know, I find that when reviewing papers, the single biggest critique that I can come up with is they should have worked on this for another year.
Right, yeah.
Like it actually has enough potential, but they just...
You sent it in early.
You sent it in too early. And, oftentimes it's then that creates another set of problems, that's there. Okay, last question.
Okay, last question.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to that really stands out to you?
Okay.
It's not run-of-the-mill good, but it's like really good.
Oh. Well, so this is not at all a pretentious answer. This is the truth. I just watched an entire series on TV called Younger.
Okay.
And it's about this 40-year-old woman.
Okay.
Who, she works in publishing, but she has a kid. She gets married really young, and now her kid's gone to college. Her husband leaves her. And so now she's 40, her kid's gone, and she's like, what am I going to do? I need to get a job, right? I have to pay the bills. So she tries to get a job, but she's like too old to get a job because she's 40. Yeah. I'm 40. Okay. So it resonated with me. Like, can I get a job now? Or am I too old? But so she basically pretends to be 26. She scratches out, changes all the dates on her resume, and she's had
So now she's an imposter.
She's an imposter trying to be 26. Mm-hmm. It just, I don't know, it cracked me up because
is it a comedy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's on TV Land, but it cracks me up because just the concept of, I think people, I don't know, they're kind of harsh on women as they get older, I think.
This was completely unanticipated to me, but obviously now I have friends who
are 40.
Who are in their 40s, women who... I hear the stories. They tell me, like this, especially in the tech world.
Yeah.
Which skews male and skews young.
Right.
And these are incredibly Harvard law and incredibly accomplished people. And then there's just this,
you're outdated.
Again, automatic assessment that you're out of date.
Yeah. Well, so I did this interview on CNN. So
you're basically living your work while you watch this.
Yeah. I think I like it. It just seems funny. I want to go pretend to be 26. But also some of the things that she has to learn crack me up because she's trying to be young, and I'm like, oh, that's what those young people mean. And then in other ways, I feel like sometimes because we work with 18-year-olds, or you mostly teach grad students, I guess.
I do, yes.
I teach a lot of 19 to 20-year-olds. I think sometimes I'm trying to like hold on to my youth because just like you have to learn what they're talking about.
I do believe it keeps you younger.
Yeah.
In a sense. I sometimes will just ask me like, so what's going on?
Yeah, in the world.
What's happening? What's the new thing? Or
what's up with Twitter? Or like, is MySpace done?
No, but I regularly will ask them like, what are you listening to right now?
Yeah.
And all those kinds of things, just to make sure that I'm not like missing too much.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's why I like it. I don't know, just it's never going to win a whatever award, Emmy yes. or an Oscar. No one thinks it's profound.
I see. It's fun. It's candy.
It's super entertaining. Yeah, she has a love triangle between her. She has like a 26-year-old boyfriend, yes, which is like amazing. And then she has like the older boyfriend as well, who's like, she has to choose. Do I want the older boyfriend because he's like my age?
Right. We have more in
But
common.
then you have a 26-year-old boyfriend who looks amazing.
It's fun.
He's a tattoo artist, so like, how can you go wrong? Right?
I get it. All right. Well, I'll put a link up to that
awesome.
In the notes. Anything else? Anything you're listening to or reading?
Okay, I don't listen to music.
Okay.
I only listen to the radio, so I don't know. I've been to one concert in my whole life. Okay. I'm music illiterate. And I'm happy to stay that way.
You're an open book.
Thanks.
You're an open book. Most people would recognize that not listening to music is deviant.
I know, it's totally deviant.
And probably get lots of pushback.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you. By the way, I think concerts are overrated.
Okay. But you kind of are judging me now.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm acknowledging.
Okay.
I am acknowledging that what you've said is unusual.
Yes.
But clearly, like, music not everybody can love music.
I love music.
But you don't listen to it.
I don't. Yeah, I love music. I love dancing. I love to dance.
So
But I just don't have like, I don't know. I don't have like a 80s band that I still hold on to because music is changing and I appreciate the change. I don't know.
And you don't listen to podcasts.
I've never listened to a podcast.
Ever.
No.
Will you listen to this one?
No, God, okay. No. Like,
will you tell people about it?
Yeah, I'll tell people about it.
Okay,
but
so you don't mind if other people listen?
I do mind, but I will.
How would you feel if the dean listened to this podcast?
I hope she listens to the podcast. She probably knows I hate music and
that's fine.
Watch terrible TV. I did say that I watched the whole entire series, so
yes,
clearly I'm working hard.
You need breaks.
Yeah.
And reading?
Reading. So here's if you want to continue my deviance.
Yeah, sure.
I do not read fiction.
Okay. I don't either. I
really?
Rarely do. I watch fiction.
Weird.
I watch movies, but I don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction.
Do you think that's like makes you deviant?
It's unusual. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I just don't. I feel like there's so much interesting stuff that's really happening in the world that I don't have to read about stuff that is made up.
Yeah. Right. Like you read all day. So
yes.
I don't really want to read. But when
I read a lot, I just read stuff that's real.
Like nonfiction.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, more my speed. I'll read like probably the most recent science book I read. I read like Thinking Fast and Slow and all those. But I read Gut, which is a book about how your human biome affects everything you do.
Uh-huh.
Such a good book.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, I think those pop science books, a lot of them are a little shallow, and there's some you have to be a kind of smart consumer of them, but the good ones are a great way to get introduced to an idea without having to dive too deeply into the heavy I don't want to read a lot of those biome papers.
I know, right? They're hard to read.
So that seems like a good one.
Yeah, so no music, no reading, and I watch
that's fine
bad TV.
Stefanie, this was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Peter.
I really appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw